guys, it's Theresa here of Larkin Design, and welcome to my 9th Photoshop tutorial. This is the layout for my Project Life 2017 week 8. And so this is the layout that I'm going to share with you today. Let's get started. So my first step in every digital layout is to open all the photos that I have for that particular week. And I usually do a couple of light edits to the photos. Sometimes I will have already done some editing on my phone. I do like to brighten using the Color Story app from ABM. So sometimes that's already been done. Sometimes they've been edited through Instagram if they're Instagram photos. So my goal right now is just to assess what I have for the week and open the ones that I think I'm going to use. And basically I'm looking for just different photos throughout the week that tell the story of kind of what we did. And they can be as varied as snow and bubbles outside with warm weather, indoors, outdoors, some of the papers that come home every week, just a miscellaneous variety of things. And then once I have them all opened, I go through them one by one and do some final edits. I usually do brightening, a unsharp mask to sharpen just a tiny bit, and then I resize them to 300 ppi, and typically I make them 1800 by 1300 pixels wide and high, and that's just to help manage them in the photo templates themselves. I also might adjust some of the perspective like I just did on this one. So I'm not going to go through my brightening and photo editing on every photo today, just a couple. I do have a more detailed video on the edits that I do on my photos, and if you want to look at that at the playlist for my Photoshop tutorials, then you'll be able to find that one. It's pretty early on, probably the second or third one that I did. So that will help you just see the basic edits that I do. I don't spend a lot of time editing photos because I do think that there's tremendous value in sharing the photos exactly as they were taken. There's some charm in that, and there's some realism in that, even if they're grainy, even if they're not perfect, just to embrace that as part of your photographic journey. So once I have them all edited and they're all ready to go, I know that I have about 11 or 12 photos that are going to be included on this layout, and that gives me an idea of what I need from my photo template. I'm going to use a combination here. I'm working with products from Paisley Press, available at thelilypad.com, and I will link all of those products below. I'm using the pocket guides and also some photo templates, and so I'm going to just open up the ones that look interesting to me or look like they provide the opportunities to tell the stories that I'm wanting to tell. One of the things that I noticed while I was editing my photos this week is there are a lot of vertical photos. That's what happens when I take a lot of photos with my phone, is that a lot of them do end up being vertical photos. Sometimes what I do is make a definitive effort to take both vertical and horizontal, but sometimes when you're just going about your day, I just don't have time to do that. So take the vertical photo and then use photo templates to help you. Those also give opportunities to journal below the photo as well. And these photo templates also give you the opportunity to use your square photos, or to turn a vertical photo into a square photo and crop it down a little bit, just depending on what you feel like doing. And for me, there's no real science here other than balance. When I am ready to design the layout itself and I'm working with the templates, my main concern is balance, but overall I'm just doing what I like to do. And that is what becomes a signature look. So when you look at a designer, let's say you're looking at who's a good project lifer to use as an example. Let me look at my Instagram, because we all do this. We look and say, man, I wish I could design like so and so does, right? And we get caught up in that. I want my layouts to look just like, I don't know, like my mind is just totally blanking out today. Someone like I Document Life, right? I want my layouts to look like her. Well, what her signature look is simply what she likes to do. And sure, there are design concepts and elements of design that go into a pleasing aesthetic. But what's true and what's genuine is doing what you like. And so for me, one thing that I do like to do is sort of a tic-tac-toe, and I've talked about this in the past about combining the divided templates with full-size 4x6 photos, so alternating. My layouts alternate a lot between the 3x4 and the 4x6, just every other one. That's really like the only science that goes into creating my layouts. I did mention balance. I do like to repeat elements. So you'll see that if there's a certain photo template on one side, I probably will repeat it on the other side. And frequently I do that in opposing corners, sort of like a boxing ring in that regard. But other than that, it really is just about the photos that I want to include and creating spaces to write just a little bit about those photos. I'm trying to get better about that, and actually I can see a progression for myself. Photoshop has been really helpful for me in including these photo templates that give space just for a sentence or two or three. Not overwhelming, right? We don't have to write pages and pages of journaling, but all in all, on the whole layout, there's probably 2 paragraphs. And so every sentence and the journaling underneath every photo becomes part of the whole. And that way you can break down your journaling, right? Break down your design into what you need, right? Good design is always about what you need it to do, what you need it to function as, and then also good journaling. And good journaling doesn't mean writing paragraphs and paragraphs. It just means saying a little something here and there. And it's also, I really like the concept of facts and feelings. So some of the photos I'm going to be like, this is the letter that came home from school. Other photos, I'm going to be like, this is how this photo makes me feel. So those are always your jumping off points for how to journal, how to include the best journaling on your layouts. And that's something that I'm working on myself as well to become better about. So at this point, I am pretty much, this layout is pretty much shaping up here. I am leaving one space in the lower left hand side. I'm leaving one space for a journaling card. There's so many photos this week, and there's a couple of weeks this year that have been a lot of photos, and obviously that makes me really happy. There's something really fun about opening my folder for the week and seeing like 100 photos in there. It's awesome, right? And again, it doesn't have to be overwhelming. I don't have to put 100 photos on my layout, but there's a lot to choose from. And that also means that I can use fewer journaling cards and fewer filler cards, right? I think that just about every frame that I've included here has a specific purpose and is not, I don't think there end up being any filler cards on this layout. So very utilitarian. And that's awesome too. My focus and my goal for these layouts is simply to share our family history on a week-to-week basis. So, and of course there's room for all sorts of ornamentation and creativity, but there's also a utilitarian focus here as well. So now at this stage, I'm going to begin bringing in all of the photos that I have. And so I'm going to share with you a little bit about each of the photos for this week. Again, there's a lot going on. We had a business trip. We had someone get in trouble at school. We had sunny weather, so we played outside with the bubble maker. Just some really good things happening. And so during this week, Alan traveled to Boston, and the photo on the lower right hand side of the layout is the snowbanks when he got off his flight that night. That's how tall the snow was. We were enjoying 65-degree weather here, but for him it was snowing. So that was a fun one to include, right? This contrast of his experience versus our experience. It was really nice here, so we did a little bit of yard work. I had been wanting to clean out all the flower beds and put down new pine straw, so we did that. And during this week, we were kind of starting to get the flower beds ready for planting in the spring. I haven't done that yet. But this is a time when some of the summer plants start coming out. Unfortunately, in March, it froze again, so some of our plants took a little bit of damage in March. That happens. But we did, on this week, we did clean everything out and put down new pine straw. So that was really nice. I also had that I Heart You is a painting that Emberlyn brought home from school for me. So that was really nice. I had fun including that. Now this photo here, oh my gosh, I love this photo. We bought a bubble maker, and this is something for me that says summer. I love getting a new bubble maker every year and just having it around the house and having fun with it. And so we brought it home and filled it up with bubbles, and we're playing with it. There's both of these really cool photos. The sun was shining really brightly, and so I took advantage of some photo opportunities there. I also took, this is a pano. Now, the days that Alan was in Boston, we had finished up all the nighttime routine. Everybody was bathed, everybody was fed, and lunches were made for the next day. And I sat down in the living room, and that's what I saw. Everybody was just sitting there hanging out, and we had a few minutes to relax before bedtime. And so I took a pano with my phone and just focused on that moment for just a few minutes of having everybody there and having everybody together. So I have these two sort of squarish photos here of Natalie. And so Natalie had a little incident at school that week. This is a confession letter that she wrote. Her dad sent me this photo of this letter that she wrote. So apparently she had a little incident in school where she's in 4th grade, and so they were allowed to bring their electronics to school one day, and they do this periodically, 3 or 4 times a year at the 4th grade level. And I have mixed feelings about it because we all know that electronics and children present some challenges and they need to be supervised. So I do have my reserve about it. But, she needs to learn, and our children need to learn how to manage their electronics in social settings and in public settings. And so anyway, she had taken her iPod to school with her, and she was allowed to play it, but she was playing something and got frustrated with it, and apparently she dropped the F-bomb. And so she wrote a little confession about it, and she was appropriately punished at school and punished here at home, obviously, for her little indiscretion. But it was funny that she wrote a confession letter, and she said she just apparently lost her mind and dropped the F-bomb. That was her words that she used. So anyway, I'm also including, this is a photo of a schedule that we've been making for me when Alan travels out of town. And this is actually really healthy. Something that I struggle with as a survivor of trauma is sequencing of events. And what I find happens for me is that everybody has a to-do list in their mind, right? We all carry these to-do lists. And sometimes we chalk it up to scatterbrained minds when we forget to do something. I find for me that I don't forget to do things, but I do things and then I forget that I did them. And so I've come to cope with this. This is a part of my trauma. It's part of dissociation. It's part of when you go through repeated trauma, your brain, in order to survive, it puts you in a different time frame or a different place. And so dissociation is something that happens because of that. And sometimes that looks like being scatterbrained, to be honest. But so what we've come to do to help me cope with that is to create checklists and schedules, so that when Alan is gone, I can make sure that I get the trash taken out and things like that. I can check them off, and I can visibly see I checked that off. I did actually do that, because what happens for me is that when I forget that I did it, then I obsess over whether I did it or not. And obviously, if you didn't take the trash out, you can go check and see that you didn't take the trash out. But for something like taking medication, you can't necessarily see if you did that or not. So anyway, I took a picture of our schedule and included that on this layout as well. I'm really proud of the work that I'm doing in that regard. I know that bullet journals are an excellent way for trauma survivors to help manage these symptoms. because it is something that's in my brain now that I have a challenge with. And so bullet journaling is an excellent way of coping with that. That's not something that I am ready to share or able to share at this time. But if you're thinking of recommending bullet journaling, I am very consciously aware of bullet journaling, and so I don't have any plans to share that at this time, but it is there. So another fun thing that happened that week is so 2 of our children are mine biologically. They came from my body and came from my previous marriage, and I don't talk about that a lot, but my ex-husband and Nick and Natalie's father, he showed up that week in a limo that he had purchased to pick them up. And so I wrote about how fun it must be to be Nick and Natalie and to have your dad show up in a limo to pick you up one week. And so it was definitely something that they thought was great. It was just the best thing since sliced bread. So that was fun to include. And, I really liked journaling about it from their perspective. My perspective is much different. I'm not going to talk about my perspective or how I personally feel about that. But looking at that situation through their eyes and then journaling about it through their eyes and literally saying, it must be a lot of fun for them to have him show up in a limo was a lot of fun. So keep that in mind for your journaling too as you go throughout your layouts. Especially if you're not really willing to talk about your perspective, or maybe your perspective isn't something that you want to taint these pages with, or you want to include on your pages, and that's okay too. I might not necessarily have some positive feelings about him buying a limo and showing up to pick up the kids in that, but from their perspective it's a lot of fun, and that's what I want to include, because these aren't just my memories, these are our children's memories as well. Now this card right here, I'm gonna admit that it did not go the way that I had imagined or thought or conceptualized in my brain. I did write my journaling. I started with my journaling and just a general summary of the week and how crazy busy it was, but happy. And then I wanted to do the February in a smaller text, and then the numbers, the date numbers here up above. So it is February 19th through the 25th. And I end up leaving it like this, but once I printed it out, I did change it. And I'll talk about that more tomorrow when I do my embellishing after I have it all printed out. I did leave it like that for now. In hindsight, what probably would have been better would have been to have decreased the size of the 19 to 25 a little bit more and increase the February a little bit more. I probably would have made that card a little bit more successful. But for now, I left it like this. I wasn't really sure how I felt about it, and for the sake of time, I went ahead and left it there, printed it out, and then I'll share with you tomorrow what I ended up doing to change it up. So just know that that won't stay there like that, and that's okay too. So at this stage, I have just a few places to add some journaling cards, and I'm going to use the MPM Memory Pockets Monthly collection for April. It's called Renew, available at the Lily Pad, and again, I will link below to that. I love getting these MPM kits every month, and love being able to support different designers, right? It's a collaboration of different designers, including Celine Studio, Paisley Press, Allison Pennington, and a bunch of other really talented ladies that design over at the Lily Pad. Look at this floral. This floral calls to me. I knew as soon as I saw it, I was like, I have to use that one. I'm also going to use a gray solid for my background. Now, one of the things I've talked about for switching over to, my reason for switching over to Photoshop to create my Project Life layouts is because I wanted to use some pattern papers a little bit more. Now, if you want pattern papers, there are pattern papers available through the MPM, but not in the subscription kit. You'll have to do an add-on from one of the individual designers. I haven't picked up any of the add-ons this week, but I did want to use a solid color for the background this week, and I chose this solid gray. And so I highlighted all the elements on this page and sized them down just a little tiny bit more so that I had a bit wider of a margin to show for this gray. And I really like that. I like a gray border, and I like the colors. That's one thing that I really loved about my 2016 Project Life album, was being able to use different colors around the border. So gray it is, and then I have one more slot for a journaling card. I think two more. So I'm going to, let's see, I don't know what I'm looking for here. I think that I'm going to use, this geometric one. Look at these colors. I am loving the gray and the blue and the mustard together. And I'll tell you about my color choices for these Project Life albums or these layouts, and what my design philosophy is. And I'll be honest with you, it's just as simple as using what you love. But what I really love is that these photos are such a variety of colors and situations and scenes and places, and so there's a lot of color in these photos, which pretty much gives you the opportunity to use any colors that you really want. There's blues in these photos, there's yellows in these photos, there's pinks in these photos, there's fuchsia, there's just all kinds of colors. And so I think that you can pretty much use any colors that you want when your photos are such a broad variety of colors and situations. So use the colors that you love and use the products that you love, and don't worry, don't obsess on these Project Life layouts. Don't obsess about those colors. It really is okay. I'm also going to use this mustard stripe here, and I'm going to drop that over here on the right hand side. I ended up taking a photo out so that I could include another journaling card here, just again for balance, to balance and repeat that yellow over here on this side of the page. So I'm just going to wrap this up here, and I will be back tomorrow to share with you the embellishing portion of this layout. Thanks so much for watching. I hope that you will like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.